soccer wasn't really on my radar because no one in my family had ever played soccer. My father played baseball and football, growing up. And so that's what I wanted to play. The first season that I ever started playing sports, I wanted to play American football and, American football, basketball, baseball. That was going to be it. But when I went to go sign up, it was too late. And the only thing left on the board at the Y was soccer. I ended up at Chapel Hill somewhat by mistake.
It seems like a trend.
I know.
Were you late for another sign up or something? And just had to go to Chapel Hill?
This is all we got left. Chapel Hill.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
We had Dwayne D. Rosario, followed up by Josie Altidore as we started 2025 with our Legends series, and we keep it going. And for me, maybe even taking it up a notch. Hard to believe that may be the case, but this man needs some introduction. But we'll make sure we give him one anyway. A World Cup veteran, 3-time MLS Cup champion, a member of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, defined a generation of American defenders and inspired even our very own Jalil Anibaba. He was a rock at the back, a leader on the field, an inspiration to countless players across the nation. Joining us to cover New Ground for our Legends series, Chief Sporting Officer for Carolina Core, none other than Eddie Pope. Eddie, how you living this week? How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate that intro. That's what's up right there.
First and foremost, Eddie, before we get into yesteryear and wax nostalgia and talk about a few different things, season 2, year 2 for Carolina Core, how excited are you about the 2025 season as you guys open preseason camp?
Yes, very excited. Obviously, getting that first season under our belt was huge for us. The first year is never easy. Everything's brand new. Even your front office staff, a lot of those individuals are doing things for the first time. Some coaches for the first time, players for the first time. To get that first season under our belts and with everyone across the board getting more experience was fantastic. So now we're all excited about season 2.
And Eddie, it's really interesting when I'm able to see certain careers kind of go from player to what they do afterwards to maybe it's a coach or even ascending up into the CSO ranks. But for me, there's so many things to talk about with you. But the first thing that I want to do is, if you will, take us all the way back. How did you get into the game of football? Who were some of your influences and where did it really all start for you?
For me, growing up, obviously, here in the U.S., soccer wasn't really on my radar because no one in my family had ever played soccer. My father played baseball and football, growing up, and so that's what I wanted to play. And so, really, the way I got started was the first season that I ever started playing sports. I wanted to play American football, and American football, basketball, baseball. That was going to be it. But when I went to go sign up, it was too late. And the only thing left on the board at the Y was soccer.
Wow.
And
I never knew that story.
Yeah. So he was like, well, do you want to try it? And I was kind of like, not really. But if there's nothing else to play, I might as well play soccer. So I signed up for soccer. And then later on for basketball and for baseball as those seasons came around. And I didn't really play American football until high school. But that's how I first started playing soccer.
Wow. That is an incredible story. And Eddie, I was there, part of your induction into National Soccer Hall of Fame a few moons ago now. And I never knew, in some ways, you're an accidental tourist to this game. And it just really, credit to your dad for, taking you down there. There was a trivia question about MLS history at the Rookie Symposium. And it was who won the first championship. And someone remembered that you had scored the golden goal. Even in that moment, years later, in the 30th season of Major League Soccer, how surreal is it even to see an old clip in the rain and you rising up there to get that golden goal and win the first ever title in this league? Now that you have history on your side in so many ways, what is that like now to sort of hold on to something that no one will ever take away from you?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think you used the correct word, surreal. I mean, it is surreal even to this day. I think that number one, that there's a professional soccer league in this country, and it has certainly survived and stood the test of time. But to be a part of it, in the very beginning, is something that is unforgettable. And I remember even being in that moment, it feeling surreal, and not having really won anything ever before. And so for me, the sort of the first big thing that I won was as a professional player. It was very, very special.
Mm,
One of the things that's always fascinated me the most about you is how stoic you are. You've always been able to do things that people
facts.
either aspire to do or dream of doing, and to you, you just have this kind of demeanor like, I mean, it ain't nothing. It's whatever. And but I'm always super curious though, what makes players tick? What are the aspects of the game that really get their passion going? So for you, even though you don't necessarily always show your emotions or what's burning inside of you on your sleeve, what are some of the aspects of the game when you were a player that really used to get you cracking?
I think I always enjoyed, like reading the game.
Mhm.
I always like to
Mm.
have it in front of me. I always like to just to really watch it unfold. That's why I was never, going to be a striker or anything like like that. Like I enjoyed being in the back. I
Mm.
enjoy
Seeing all
the
the chess pieces in front of you.
yes, yes, and I really enjoyed the one v one battles, and this guy came in and he scored in the last two games, and he needs to be shut down, and I enjoyed the physicality of it.
Mhm.
I enjoyed the challenge of shutting down strikers, just as much as a striker enjoys it the other way around, I'm sure. But for me, those were things. I mean, even in college, I really like matching up against the other team's best player, their striker, the guy who's going to be the one to win the game for them, and shutting them down. And that was always a good feeling to me as a defender. So I would say my personality was always one that just enjoyed that challenge day in and day out.
And you mentioned the battles. And is there one moment or even a mindset shift that you can recall when you knew, hey, I can play at this level and I can be the shutdown center back and really make it hard for the other team to get a result? Is there a moment where you felt like, okay, I got this? And if there is, I'd love to hear what that was like and sort of having that shift in your mindset going from, I think I can play here to believing and knowing that you can play there.
I don't know if it was necessarily a moment as much as it was over time. It takes a whole season. For
Mm.
me, it was the first year, and I started on a team that had John Harkes, that had Marco Echeverry my first season, Jaime Moreno, Tony Sen. I mean, I can go on and on. All these players you got experience. Jeff Agus, they were already
All
had national
legends.
team players. Yeah, Diaz Arce. Everybody was a national team player almost, and some were coming back from Europe at the time, if you remember. And so, for me, it was hard in the beginning. So I certainly had a lot of doubt, really just from the training sessions,
Mm.
because everyone was already so good, and I was coming out of college. The speed was faster, the pace of the game was faster, players were better and smarter, and so it took probably I'd say three-quarters of the season, and getting burned on this play, getting burned on that play, learning from those mistakes, and getting yelled at in video sessions and all those things by the coaches. And then somewhere around three-quarters of the way in, and putting together some good games here and there, I started to get a little more confident. But I would say it was a full season before I even felt like I really belonged there. And then before that, before right, I was in the championship game.
Mm, mm. Hey, Jalil, real quick. When did you realize that you were training against the best dudes in the league?
I mean,
And then you were
yeah.
like, okay, wait a minute. Training is much harder than these games. Like, when did that come together? Was that had to be a pretty early realization in the MLS campaign of like, I'm playing with some special guys every day in DC.
I mean, for me, 100%. Well, even to kind of frame the conversation, Eddie, I
Hmm.
was talking to Allen and some of the other homies at Rookie Symposium, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Jalil, when was the last time you've been at a Rookie Symposium or something similar?" I was like, "I haven't been to one since I was a rookie," and they were like, "Wait, what?" I said, "Yeah, I haven't been to one since I was a rookie, which is about 14, 15 years ago." But guess who spoke at mine? It was Eddie Pope. And one of the things that you said that stuck with me literally until through my entire career and to this day is you said, "Hey, look, all of you guys are some of the best players in your schools, the university system, or North America in general at your age range, but you are no longer a veteran. You're a rookie now, and you got to earn everybody's respect." Alan, to answer your question specifically, when did I know and realize I was playing against some of the best players in the league or even in the world? I mean, the first day of preseason, I was like, "Oh, this is the level. This is what I got to do. I know I can do some things, but I need to make sure that I'm working on my craft every single day, so I feel like Eddie was saying that you belong." So, Eddie, my question to you though is, when making that transition, where your previous environment was really does help shape that. For you, why did you decide to go to Chapel Hill? How did Chapel Hill really help shape your professional mentality, your educational mentality, and just the way that you kind of walked through the world as a young man at that time? How do you think it sets you up uniquely for success in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I ended up at Chapel Hill somewhat by mistake.
It seems like a trend.
I know, I know.
Were you late for another sign up or something and just had to go to
Yeah,
Chapel Hill?
you
This
know,
is all we got left. Chapel Hill.
you remember or know that, well, Jay Vidovich, the old coach,
Yes.
Pitt, all that stuff, Wake Forest. But, well, he was an assistant at Wake Forest when I was kind of growing up playing, and he was my state team coach. So for me, I was always going to go to Wake Forest. It's like, "Yeah, you're coming with us, yada, yada, so forth and so on." And I would say really, really late in the process, they were able to, get a player, I believe, from Holland or something like that. And that was really like their last spot. They didn't think they were going to get him. He was supposed to maybe become a pro or something like that. And yeah, he just called me. I mean, very late in the process, it was like, "Yeah, we plan on getting you, but we're not going to be able to," and so forth and so on. So I actually was not at that
Wow.
point going to.
Incredible.
I couldn't really afford to go anywhere else in college, and it was already late. And so I ended up having the Carolina UNC kicking coach, one of the coaches, show up at my high school and was like, "Hey, we saw you kicking, and we'd love to offer you a scholarship. Do you want to come?" And at the time, I was like, "Well, soccer kind of fell through."
Right.
So I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do." And then I'd say maybe a couple of days later, Elmar Bolovich, he was a UNC coach at the time, right?
Yep.
Was like,
Legend.
"Hey, I heard you were coming here," and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, do you want to play soccer too?" And I said, "Of course, I do both." And and he was like, "Look, none of us recruited you because we always assumed you were going to go to Wake,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and out of respect for them and their program, we didn't really reach out. But the second I heard you coming here, I was kind of confused." So, long story short, that's how I ended up at UNC.
I think people forget that you played football as well, and be remiss if I didn't ask you about Bill Belichick. And you actually played for Mac Brown, correct?
So I always have to put "played" in quotations
Yeah,
because,
sure.
again, part of another much
Yep.
longer story. But when I did end up at UNC, I'd won the kickoff position. I did not win the field goal position,
Yeah.
but I did win the kickoff position as a freshman. And but I ended up getting hurt in soccer practice, and so I ended up in the hospital. I had a really bad infection from getting like kind of two-footed, and I was in the hospital for a good little while. And
Wow.
I ended up being in there so long that I missed two of the football games. And soccer, at least then, used to start later
Correct.
than football. So I did a medical redshirt for football, started soccer once it started up, and at the end of that season, I had to go into residency for the Olympic team. That was when stuff was starting, and I couldn't continue with football because they
Right.
said, "Hey, you got to be here. We had you
That's right.
all season. It's time to show up now because you're the guy who's going to do kickoffs for us." So I had to make a decision at that point, and I was like, "Look, have to take the opportunity to try to make the Olympic team. And so that's what I did. So I ended up not ever going back to football. But yes, Mac Brown was a coach at the time, and I was at all the practices and participating as if I was going to jump into a game. But once I had medical redshorted, that was pretty much all she wrote.
it. Pretty much. Are you excited about Bill Belichick? Is that still? I know you can never really take the Tar Heel out of your experience, but are you excited about what that football program can maybe ascend to?
Yes, I mean, UNC has always been a basketball school, as Jalil will know, and our football program it's always been okay, but we know that it could be better, right? So I think it's time for us to put our flag in the ground, and what better way than have a Bill Belichick? So it's going to be really, really interesting.
Hey, Jalil, the development department at UNC is going to get a hold of this New Ground show. Y'all going to get hit up a little bit for an extra donation or 3.
Seriously. Wow. I'm like trying to gather my thoughts, my calm. I'm trying to channel my inner Eddie Pope, because you're messing me up, bro. I didn't know I did not know that you played football at Chapel. I didn't know any of this stuff in terms of how, I guess, fortuitous some of the beginning parts of your career really came together. It's crazy, man. But oftentimes I end up thinking about your legacy simply because it was one that I kind of put up on my board to say, like, all right, if I could steal some of the things that Eddie was doing in some way, shape, or form, I'll be all right. So I'll toss it up there and then try to climb up that ladder in my mind, So, but I want to hear from you. What do you feel that your playing career meant to your family? What did it mean to you? And how do you hope that your playing career was able to inspire people like myself and even younger players that you have in your organization now, or those who just know who you are and trying to look for examples of ways in which that they can see their career in their mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for younger players, the one question they always have or is this sort of, well, how do I make it?
Right.
And like everybody, it's sort of like the instant gratification. Like, I want to make it right now, and it's about how you make it. And so I think for me, and obviously yourself, Jalil, it takes time, and it takes a lot of failure, a lot of things just coming together, as we've sort of discussed, and you got to get all those things right and have some things fall in place for you, and then you have to go perform. And I think, like, young players nowadays, that's the piece that's tough for them is the consistency of the performance and really paying attention to detail. If you're a defender, well, maybe the person you're marking didn't score, but maybe they smacked it off the crossbar once, right? And that has to really bother you. Or maybe you got spun in the box and the guy got a good opportunity, but he missed wide. He didn't score, but that has to really bother you. That has to keep you up at night, because that is sort of that road towards being consistent. Nobody's going to be perfect, but you have to at least be trying to be perfect. And you're going to fall short, but you should end up landing in a good spot. So I think, for me, it was also trying to just be who I was, as opposed to trying to be like those who were before me, a little bit older, already in the starting position that I want. It just wasn't working. I couldn't play the way that they played. And I had to accept that. And then eventually I was just like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be the one, I'm not hitting 10, 15 dangerous long balls. I'm going to connect 30, 40 short ones, or whatever it is. I'm going to use my speed. I'm going to use my pace. I'm going to use my ability in the air. Those are some of my strong points. I'm not going to be dribbling out of the back or taking a lot of risks, as some other people maybe have the intestinal fortitude to do so. So I had to figure out who I was. And once I did that, things got easier for me. And so I try to talk to my players about that as well. And what does that path look like for you? Because everybody's path is different. And it's tough to copy someone, but at the same time, you should be trying to emulate someone and start to, like what you just said, you pick little pieces here and there. And I can think about defenders that I knew about, where I would say, this guy's fast, I'm going to try to use that. Or this guy's really good in the air, I'm going to try to pull that together. It's interesting that you said that, because I did something very similar. And I had to take all those things and match them with my strengths in order to become, a good player.
January camp in the books, U.S. men's national team. You think about Pochettino. You think about what it's like. You're part of that 2002 historic U.S. men's national team quarterfinalist. What do you think about this U.S. team heading into a home World Cup in comparison to some of the great teams you were a part of back in the day?
Opportunity, opportunity. I would say, you know, however many years ago, if we had a home World Cup, would that have been the time? I mean, it would have been a question mark. I do think this is one where we have a good opportunity to go pretty far, and it's at home. You should be comfortable. You're close to your family, your friends. We know the country. We know how to travel here. We know the climate. This is it. Like, this is the one where you want to throw everything, put all your eggs in one basket, and really go for it. And yes, it's going to take players who are going to have to play beyond that 100%. You're going to have to do things that you didn't know you could do in order to make it far. I mean, that's usually what happens. That's how you break out of these trends where you maybe crash out first round or something like that. But for me, it's just the word is opportunity, and I think no excuses from a player standpoint, coaching standpoint. It's where you're playing. It's all there, and of course it's going to be hard, and of course there are going to be
Right.
teams that are better. There are always teams that are better, and that's why it's called an upset, right? So I think for this group, this is it, and I think the two other countries who are going to be comfortable as well, they're going to be thinking the same thing.
Correct.
What are some of the things about participating in a World Cup that you didn't expect to be part of the experience, or part of maybe the
Great
feelings
question.
before the first time you played in a World Cup? Because so many people around the world are just wanting to know, what is it like to be there? What is it like to participate? What is it like to be challenged with one of the highest challenges in all sports?
Yeah, it's always great to represent your country, and so I think first and foremost, I mean, that is, it's something that's hard to put into words. Um, it's a pleasure, right? It's something that you're extremely fortunate to be able to do. It's an honor, right? I mean, all of those things, when you're able to represent your country on that level, on that stage, it is certainly incredible, and it's an unforgettable thing. And I think every player from every country feels the same way. And I think for me, what is always surprising is just the opponent, and you just never know what you're going to get. But what you do know is that everybody's really, really good, and so
Right.
you're almost sometimes too cautious. I also think that people know that the world is watching, so it's not maybe what I was used to, where you have some eyeballs on you. Even when a qualifier, Aztec of 70,000, it's a rare experience. Now everybody's watching it, and I do also think, and I think this is one thing that the players will feel, is you're going to feel the pressure of the country, especially when it's at home, because you're going to have a lot of non-soccer fans tuning in to watch, to see how they do. The expectation, that pressure, that surprised me a little bit too. In 2002, if you remember, the league was fledgling a little bit, and I do remember however it came to us through U.S. Soccer, that we need to do well. We need to have a good run because it's imperative for our league. And I felt like there was some pressure there as well. But I think overall, it really is the level of competition is higher than you expect it to be, because you already expect it to be extremely hard, and then it's like what you call like almost the impossible level in some cases. So that for me was a little bit of a surprise, and you kind of just have to step out, take a deep breath, and use the help that you have around you and your coaching staff and your teammates, and dig in.
Quick follow-up. How long after kickoff before it feels like a normal match, or does it never feel like a normal match?
I don't think it ever feels like a normal match. The most normal World Cup match I would say that I played, which was good for us, was Mexico. That felt normal because we had played them so many times. And but I would say most of the other ones, it's just no one wants to make a mistake. no one wants to make an error. And as a defender, right, you're gonna mess up at some point. But obviously you're trying not to, and no one wants to do it because you do. Again, you're representing your country, and you don't want to let your country down. That added pressure makes it difficult. It also makes it enjoyable when the team does well. Also, you feel really proud of your country and of your team and your teammates.
Mm. You talk about being very proud. I'm so thankful that you took out the time to hang out with Jalil and I here on New Ground. And more than anything, Eddie, just so delighted that you got to share stories that maybe some people know, some people don't know. But the one thing that Jalil and I wanted to share with you is just how much respect and reverence you do have. And I'll close with this. When they mentioned Eddie Pope scored the golden goal, I did take a moment to say I am petitioning the league for the Eddie Pope MLS Defender of the Year award. I am bringing that back. It's lobby season up on the hill. I'm going to get it cracking, but I couldn't think of a better person to represent our game and our country and our league more than you. And Carolina has a great one. Best of luck to the Carolina core, and we'll have you on later in the year to check in on you guys, and best of luck as the season gets underway.
No, thanks to the both of you, and thanks for the kind words. And I certainly look forward to coming on again. This was a lot of fun, so I appreciate it.